2012, we really don't know if the situation has slipped. So there should be some, the government should take up, or there should be some independent survey to find out what has been the result of all the ICDS, midday meal schemes and the other welfare programs. Okay, that is one point. The second point is, what is food security? Food security is reaching people having access to food all the time in an affordable manner. And I'm afraid that is where we are failing, because it's neither affordable, neither do all people have access to it. And the other thing is also, I find that the government is in a way dithering on many fronts, in the sense that, you know, you don't know whether you want to go along with PDS, full universal public distribution system, or you want to go with targeted public distribution system, or you want to have a national food security bill, which is again, sometimes it's taking APL and BPL, sometimes the plan B now talks of, you know, evicting 33% of the people out of the system. So there is no clarity, and since there is no clarity in the government, the schemes and everything are suffering, you know.
Biraj, you wanted to say something?
I was just saying that, look, it's not IFPRI's fault that India does not have.
I only raised it last time when they presented their report, but that where is your data based on?
The data is based only on the data that governments provide.
That is true. That is what all international agencies do.
Now, our problem is that our government has not updated that data since 2005. In fact, NFHS 4, which is the fourth round of the national, this is all data from NFHS 3, which is 2005-6. NFHS 4 results were to come last year. And now government is not even clear on whether we are going to have a National Family Health Survey or not, because the Health Ministry announced on its own that we will not have a National Family Health Survey. IIPS, the agency which was to do it, was told not to conduct it. They have not released the funds. Then they said, no, we will capture this data in the annual health survey. Then it was pointed out in a letter by Jairam Ramesh to the health minister that please don't discontinue it, because the annual health survey does not collect anthropometric data, weight data. So unless you weigh the children on a large sample, you won't be able to arrive on malnutrition figures. Then they said, okay, we will include, but 6 months into the debate and 2 years after the data was due, we are still not clear. And you know, and that's the point.
I'm here for a very short break in Public Forum. Discussing the state of affairs when it comes to World Food Day and India's status on the Global Hunger Index.
The government is in a way dithering on many fronts. Or you want to have
and Nobel laureate Amartya Sen once said that India has enough food grains to line up the distance between Earth and Moon. But why is India's half of the population is still living below poverty and nutrition line is something, sir? It's a huge question. We'll certainly have to debate on that. But let's first come to the point that both the other panelists also raised. That is on data collection. Why have our track record been that poor in it?
In fact, I will say this way.
I only raised it last time when they presented their report, that where is your data based on?
The data is based
there also, I think we have seen, I think we are not very serious.
That
somehow
that
problem is there with us.
Now our problem is that
in this context particularly, I think I had a little bit saying that if you are saying that our condition must have improved all these 8 years, I think other indications do not really indicate that way. Like for instance, if you look at the implementation of NREGA, I think the data that we have even for the latest years, 11, 12, I in fact myself surveyed in 10 and 11 about 18 states. And there, in the states where there is heavy concentration of poor people, there things have not really improved much. Like Bihar, Jharkhand, you know, in those areas, even in Orissa, hardly 14 days, 15 days of average man days provided. So what is the kind of scenario that you are seeing with so much of investment going for that? Similarly, ICDS evaluation we have done recently, the similar picture. And then we have recently got, of course, for 66th round of national sample survey for nutritional intake. That is, I think, out now. So I think only today I had a chance to go through this. Things have not improved much. Still, there is a huge malnutrition among women, among children, and among particularly SCs and STs. So those problems are still very huge. So unless you target those kind of groups in a very systematic and planned manner, I think we will remain where we were.
So, you know, the only thing that comes to your midst whenever you start thinking about it is, of course, the huge gap that you have when it comes to, of course, the production, which, you know, year after year we keep talking about the bumper production. The point that Mr. Haq was making, that internationally we look very sound, we look very in a very comfortable position. That's how we seem. But when it comes to distribution of that production,
states all the time. They are trying to say we are providing, states are not taking them ahead and reaching them to the people. We all know about Rajiv Gandhi's that famous statement about 15 paisa reaching the poor, or let us say 15.
These debates just rest on one thing, which is the center-state coordination. We do not have a coordination because in the center there is some other party who's calling the shots, and at the state level there is some other party.
Not really. I think I would go deeper on this failure of governance. Why is there a failure of governance? By the same set of actors who in UPA 1, almost the same, had delivered the Rural Employment Guarantee Act, the Right to Information Act, the Right to Education Act, Forest Rights Bill, the domestic. You see, UPA 1, and my understanding is because of the presence of the left parties
exactly.
in a very large number, because of the presence of the left parties and pressure of the left party, government acted in a certain way to create rights and entitlements and move forward on the social sector agenda. In UPA 2, unfortunately, what has happened is the Congress, which should have generated its own left, or at least respected the National Advisory Council or people who are left liberal, who were part of their circle of advisors, did not do that. That is one. The second issue, I think, is that ultimately it's about having two visions for India. There is one vision for India, cutting across party lines, and that's a dominant paradigm for the last 20 years, which believes in growth at all costs. And that if you have for 25 years 10% growth, we'll be able to solve all our problems because we'll be able to, they believe in trickle down. But the reality is that, you know, India is a very large country, a very diverse country with a very large number of poor and marginalized people. It's also a multi-party democracy. My view is that you cannot leave such a significant number of people behind and claim progress, because after all, if you are having growth and that growth is not even leading to employment, look at the employment figures. Forget food, look at employment figures. You've had a decade of jobless growth. Look at women's participation in the workforce.
That's right.
Women's participation in the workforce is coming down. Now, even from the point of view of
between what we aspire to get and what we actually get at the end, and some sort of an unbalanced growth.
You should also answer from the point of view of the government, because you were heading CACP.
The point is like this. This kind of problem is there exists. I think very much that is true. But then I agree with Gargi particularly that we have a total failure of governance, I should say. We have not really attempted systematically how to improve even governance. Things are deteriorating day by day. If it is improving to some extent, I can say yes. If it is from, say, you are at the bottom, now we have gone 10%, at least ahead. I can understand, but things are not happening that way. It is going down and down. That is the problem. Like otherwise,
there are too many assessments made on this massive exercise.
We say that only 20%
that were seen as the most food insecure states still remain so, and those two, the most well, it includes names like Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Bihar, Orissa, if I'm not wrong. And these are the states which were, even in 2005 and 6, when I was checking the figures, it remained the same. This position was just the same. A little bit of here and there, that's all. Anyway, but we'll look into some other aspects too. Building agricultural cooperatives and strengthening them was also the theme of 2012 World Food Day. We'll certainly look at that aspect too. Time for a very short break. Day. Number is 1800115313. If you have any question or any query, you can certainly call us on this toll-free number. Well, as we keep talking about the farmers' plight, of course, that's one of the things which I'll come on. But let's first talk about the agricultural cooperatives. Well, Biraj, I would like to come to you on this. The theme for the 2012 World Food Day is the agricultural cooperatives, building, strengthening them. But certainly, when you look in the Indian context, it's important to see as to how our cooperatives really, grew up till a certain point of time. But then the entire movement, it got limited. There was some sort of a stunted thing, and I mean, what has really gone wrong in the entire corporate sector?
This is a very complex issue.
Very, very complex.
And I can say that with some authority because I passed out of the Institute of Rural Management in Anand, where this was one of the issues that we discussed a lot. But the long and short of it is that in India, the cooperative movement succeeded only in small pockets, in small geographical pockets and with specific commodities. So it worked in milk because you had a Verghese Kurian. It worked in certain sectors where you had strong regional leaders. After the first 20 years, a lot of these cooperatives got taken over, like Western Maharashtra is a good example. Now they have become like political parties. They're essentially taken over by political figures. Mr. Sharad Pawar himself is a good example of somebody who emerged out of these Western Maharashtra sugar cooperative mills, associations. And a lot of these cooperatives essentially became, whether it was in banking, but they became a source for, the elite. What happened there was elite capture. So you had the large farmer lobby or the influential lobby or the politicians from that local area who were influential taking over these cooperatives, and which sounded the death knell in most parts. But to be fair, the cooperative movement in India has also delivered. If you take the milk cooperatives, for instance, from being a milk deficit country, today we are the world's largest producer of milk, and all due to the vision of one man who combined technology with managerial skill with an innate understanding of farmers.
Paresh Panchal, please put your question or comment.
गुजरात साबरकांठा साकंबा से परेश पंचाल बोल रहा हूँ
जी।
ऐसी सिस्टम के लिए कौन जिम्मेदार है? फूड इनसिक्योरिटी है हमारे देश में अब, और जो कोऑपरेटिव की बात करते हैं, अमूल की बात करते हैं, या तो कुरियन साहब ने जो बनाया, लेकिन उसको भी पॉलिटिकल समस्या आज हो गई। कुरियन साहब भी नाराज थे आज के सिस्टम से, तो इस सिस्टम के लिए कौन जिम्मेदार है? थैंक्स टू लोकसभा टीवी।
थैंक यू वेरी मच मिस्टर पांचाल फॉर दैट क्वेश्चन। वेल, वुड यू लाइक टू प्लीज रिस्पॉन्ड?
एक तो इसमें रिस्पॉन्स मेरा ये होगा कि रिस्पॉन्सिबल तो आप लोग हैं। लोग अगर जागरूक हो और अपना पावर को एक्सरसाइज करें तो ये सारे पॉलिटिकल इंटरफेरेंस या गवर्नमेंट का इंटरफेरेंस जो कोऑपरेटिव सिस्टम में है ये खत्म किया जा सकता है, क्योंकि ये नहीं है इसीलिए प्रॉब्लम है। दूसरी बात है कि जहां भी कोऑपरेटिव मूवमेंट थोड़ा ऑटोनोमस टाइप का है, गवर्नमेंट का रोल मैनेजमेंट में कम है, वहां थोड़ा सक्सेसफुल ज्यादा रहा है। और खास करके मिल्क में भी इनिशियली इसीलिए सक्सेसफुल हुआ था, कुरियन साहब ने काफी उस तरह का सिस्टम डेवलप किया था। और रिसेंटली मिल्क कोऑपरेटिव सबके जैसे बिहार जैसे स्टेट में भी जहां लोग कहते थे कुछ भी नहीं हो सकता, वहां भी मिल्क कोऑपरेटिव इतना सक्सेसफुली काम करा कॉम्फेड कि आई थिंक वन विल नॉट इवन अदरवाइज बिलीव जब तक कोई ना देखे ठीक आपने क्लोजली। तो कोऑपरेटिव्स अभी भी पोटेंशियल हमारे जैसे
फॉर द फूड सिक्योरिटी एंड सो दैट ऑल द पीपल शुड गेट फूड एंड व्हाट, so what is the government currently doing for that? Just providing this food security bill, and would it be sufficient so that everybody gets food?
Thank you Gaurav for asking that question. Biraj?
No, Gaurav, thank you for asking that question. It's a very important question, and I must say that UPA 2 initiated the National Food Security Bill, and we were all very hopeful because there have been many governments in the past, but nobody thought of a legislation which would guarantee the right to food. So they took the first right step by announcing this bill. Unfortunately, Gaurav, after that it's been all downhill because we've had many versions of that bill. We've had the bill sent to the standing committee months ago with no.
This bill can be passed in the winter session, though a lot of things are pending. It's now in the standing committees, now with the standing
parliamentary standing committee. But the thing is that we are now hearing of a plan B. That means the bill is being altered from whatever was proposed earlier. We really don't know the nuances of plan B, but I think broadly it says that 33% of the population would be kept out of the.
जो खाना आ रहा है, जो सब चावल मिलता है, तो लेकिन उड़ीसा में एक महीने पहले बहुत चावल को नदी के गाढ़ा खोलकर पोता दिया। तो मैं जो हमारा जो एरिया में जितना भी चावल आता है तो लोगों के पास क्यों नहीं आता? वो से आपका जो एफसीआई गोडाउन में खराब हो जाता है।
जी थैंक यू वेरी मच मिस्टर महंत आपके सवाल के लिए। प्लीज आप वेट करिएगा, ब्रेक के बाद में हम इस सवाल पे भी चर्चा करेंगे। टाइम फॉर अ वेरी शॉर्ट ब्रेक हियर इन पब्लिक फोरम, प्लीज स्टे ट्यून्ड। welcome back to Public Forum. In Public Forum today, we are discussing the food insecurity in the country. Amartya Sinha, please put your question, Amartya.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I have two questions, in fact. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please carry on.
Okay, the first question is, now that we have, implemented 51% FDI in multi-brand retail, it is a very good step. There is no doubt it can revolutionize the transport, the supply chain system. But don't you think that we should also allow FDI in agriculture, like we can bring Monsanto and all these companies? Number two is, the second question is, why don't we bring, biotechnology crops or genetically modified crops in a full-fledged manner into India? It can revolutionize the agriculture system of India, I believe.
Okay, I think these two questions, who would like to answer it? I
think the agriculture bit has stopped.
Yes, sir. No, the FDI part.
FDI part, I think still, I think there will be, since the present government is not able to govern, you give it to some company. So I think that will be too much. So what I am saying, you have to think sensibly and work sensibly. Otherwise, you will be nowhere. Already, I mean, that is how we, sold our nation and we became slaves of, and became a British colony. So I think we have to be a little careful about all this. Only thing is that we are in favor of some corporate participation in agriculture, that is true, but not that corporatization of agriculture. That is important. Their improved role, not just increased, but improved in every sense. Their role in fertilizer, availability, seed availability, quality seed availability, pesticides, and all that is needed. But then, if you say that, even farming they should do, and that will be too much.
There was a move to bring in BT mustard, for instance. So it is not the right thing to say that let us get BT technology into our agriculture.
51% FDI in agriculture and maybe sort out all the problems. Of course, Amartya, we have a lot of problems, but let's first try to find out solutions right here while staying in this country. We're joined by a caller right now from Rajasthan, Mr. Lehri Singh Meena. Please put your question, Meena sir.
यस मैं ये पूछना चाहता हूँ कि इस फूड सिक्योरिटी बिल के ऊपर काफी दिन से चर्चा हो रही है, लेकिन किसानों को इसका कोई बेनिफिट नहीं है. किसान काफी टाइम बैंकों में जाते हैं, कोई फैसिलिटी नहीं मिलती है, लोन स्वीकृत नहीं होता, काफी टाइम में घूमते रहते हैं और फिर भी कोई मतलब नहीं निकलता इस चीज का. तो इन किसानों को क्यों इस फूड सिक्योरिटी बिल के पीछे परेशान किया जा रहा है?
जी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मीना साहब इस सवाल के लिए.
देखिए मीना साहब, जब फूड सिक्योरिटी बिल बना था तो इसमें हमने 2-3 चीजें कही थी सरकार को किसानों के लिए. एक, हमने कहा था कि जो न्यूनतम समर्थन मूल्य है उसको आप, फार्मर्स कमीशन ने जिस तरह रिकमेंडेशन दिया था कि 50% अधिकतम बढ़ा के इसको एक आप लीगल राइट बना दीजिए, मेक इट अ लीगल राइट. हमने कहा था कि किसानों के लिए की सुविधा के लिए कम से कम हर 10 किलोमीटर में एक सेंटर होना चाहिए जहां से प्रोक्योरमेंट हो सके, ताकि अगर किसान जो छोटा किसान है आज वो अपना प्रोक्योर MSP पे वो नहीं बेच पा रहा है, उससे सरकार को खरीदना चाहिए. हमने कहा था कि उसका पेमेंट जो है तुरंत हो जाना चाहिए, अगर उसमें डिले होती है तो कई सजेशंस हमने दिए थे. लेकिन सबसे दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण बात यह है कि आज 70% इस देश में लोग ऐसे हैं जो किसान हैं, जो खुद अनाज खरीद रहे हैं, और इससे बड़ी दुखद बात कुछ नहीं हो सकती है. और 80% हमारे जो किसान हैं वो स्मॉल और
So I think there are practical problems, the way the government is working.
We want to really in fact take the essence of this particular day very seriously. That is, we'll have to certainly ensure that agriculture grows to the extent that it really should, and at the same time people are not remain undernourished or underfed in our country. Thanks very much, gentlemen, for talking to us. Thank you very much, Gargi, for talking to us. So that's all we have for you in this edition of Public Forum. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.